7 things witches do when you've exposed them. There comes a moment in every person's life when the veil is lifted, when the masks fall off, and the true faces of manipulation, jealousy, and deceit are revealed. You begin to see that not every smiling face carries good intentions, and not every voice that praises you means you well. When you expose darkness, it doesn't applaud you, it reacts. It shifts, it schemes, it strikes back. The moment you uncover hidden motives, you awaken a war in the unseen. But don't be afraid, exposure is not a curse, it's confirmation. It means your light has grown too bright to be ignored. It means your discernment has matured. Today, we're going to uncover the 7 things witches, those who operate in secret control and spiritual manipulation, do when you've finally exposed them, so you can walk in wisdom, authority, and peace. Exposure threatens control. When light breaks into darkness, the first thing it threatens is control. Every manipulative person, every deceiver, and every witch, whether in the spiritual realm or the natural, operates by one silent principle: dominion through secrecy. They thrive in hidden places, whispering lies, twisting truth, and controlling people from the shadows. Their influence depends on one thing: that you never see what's truly happening. They survive by keeping you blind. But the moment your eyes open, the power they once had begins to crumble. Exposure is dangerous to them because it dismantles their entire system of control. They can no longer pull strings behind closed doors, no longer use flattery to distract you, no longer manipulate your emotions or your loyalty. When you see through deception, you break the chain that once bound you. And when that happens, they panic, because what they fear most is not confrontation, it's clarity. Clarity is light, and light exposes everything that darkness has built in secret. When you expose darkness, you declare independence. You say, "You no longer control my emotions, you no longer shape my thinking, you no longer decide how I see myself." And that statement alone shakes the foundation of every manipulative spirit. They begin to lose their grip, not because you fought them, but because you saw them. The act of seeing is powerful. Discernment is spiritual sight, and those who live by deceit cannot stand before those who see with spiritual eyes. When you expose someone's hidden motive, their first reaction isn't always outward aggression. Sometimes it's silence, distance, or even confusion. They retreat because exposure weakens them. Their strategies are built like spider webs, delicate, invisible, and effective only when unnoticed. But once the web is seen, it loses its power. The moment you walk in awareness, you become untouchable to those who depend on your ignorance. This is why people who thrive on manipulation fear the one thing most people avoid: truth. Truth doesn't just set you free, it sets boundaries around you that no deceiver can cross. The person who walks in truth walks in authority. You can't be controlled by what you've confronted, and you can't be deceived by what you've already discerned. Once light enters a room, darkness doesn't negotiate, it disappears. When you expose deception, expect resistance. Because control is addictive, those who once manipulated you will not easily release you. They will try to regain their grip through fear, guilt, or emotional blackmail. They may remind you of your past, question your loyalty, or even make you feel as if you've done something wrong by discovering the truth. But remember this: the moment you see what's real, you carry responsibility to stay awake. Never close your eyes just because the truth is uncomfortable. Ignorance might bring temporary peace, but discernment brings lasting protection. There's something spiritual that happens when truth comes to light. The atmosphere changes. Lies lose oxygen. Manipulative people start to suffocate in your presence because they can no longer feed off your energy, your trust, or your attention. You'll notice they begin to act restless, defensive, or distant. That's not a loss, it's confirmation. Exposure separates who's for you and who's against you. It reveals the real hearts of people who once pretended to love your light but were secretly jealous of it. And here's the deeper truth: exposure isn't just about revealing others. Sometimes it's also about revealing you. Because once light comes in, it shows not only who they are, but who you've become. It shows how much you've grown, how far you've come, and how much wisdom you've gained. You realize you no longer need approval from those who used to manipulate you. You no longer seek validation from those who once used your kindness as weakness. That's power. That's freedom. So don't mourn when exposure happens, celebrate it. It's not the end of something, it's the beginning of your discernment season. When truth comes to light, you're being elevated to a higher level of awareness, a realm where not everyone can follow. Because light separates, it divides the genuine from the fake, the loyal from the opportunistic, the spiritual from the carnal. Those who walk in darkness will call you arrogant, judgmental, or even changed, but that's because they can no longer control you. You've stepped out of their reach. You've outgrown their manipulation. Your light has grown too bright for their shadows to survive. Exposure threatens control because it reveals weakness. Every manipulator fears the moment you realize they never had real power, only the illusion of it. They never controlled you by strength, only by your blindness. And once you see the truth, you can never be deceived the same way again. So stand firm in your discernment. When you expose darkness, don't step back in fear. Stand taller in truth. Remember, you are the light that reveals what others hide. You are the mirror that forces deception to face itself, and no witch, no manipulator, no hidden enemy can control what has already been brought into the light. They disguise the truth with confusion when the light of truth exposes darkness. The first thing the enemy does is not to flee, it's to distort. Deception rarely disappears quietly. Instead, it tries to rewrite the narrative. When witches, manipulators, or deceptive people are exposed, they immediately begin to cover the truth with layers of confusion. Confusion is their camouflage, their way of hiding lies beneath half-truths and twisted reasoning. They know that if they can make you doubt what you've seen, they can make you question what you know. Confusion is a weapon of control. It's designed to blur the lines between right and wrong, truth and falsehood, light and darkness. When you expose someone operating in manipulation, they rarely admit it. Instead, they twist the story, change the facts, and shift the focus. They say things like, "That's not what really happened," or "You misunderstood me," or "Why would you think I'd ever do that?" They speak in ways that make you doubt your own discernment. Suddenly, what was once clear starts to feel uncertain. That's not coincidence, that's strategy. People who operate in spiritual or emotional manipulation understand that clarity is your strength. Once you know the truth, they can't dominate you anymore. So they try to create fog, emotional fog, mental fog, relational fog, anything that blurs your perception. They want you to second, guess yourself because self-doubt is the door that reopens control. When you're unsure of what's real, they can re-enter and redefine reality for you. This is why confusion is one of the most dangerous spiritual weapons. It doesn't fight you physically, it fights your confidence. It whispers, maybe you're overreacting, maybe you're being too sensitive, maybe they didn't mean it that way. And the moment you start questioning your discernment, they win back the power that exposure took away. But hear this truth, God is not the author of confusion. Wherever there is confusion, there is deception. Truth is always clear, even if it's uncomfortable. Lies are always cloudy, even if they sound sweet. The spirit of manipulation thrives in emotional chaos. They keep people spinning in circles of uncertainty, so they never stand still long enough to see what's really happening. When a witch or deceiver disguises truth with confusion, it's because they fear the clarity you've gained. They know once you've seen them for who they are, the spell is broken. But if they can confuse you, they can delay your breakthrough. Confusion slows discernment. It's like spiritual smoke. It blinds your spiritual sight and makes you lose direction. That's why they'll flood you with words, explanations, and excuses. The more they talk, the less you see. But wisdom knows that truth doesn't need to explain itself. It stands firm even in silence. You must guard your mind during the moment of exposure. Don't allow emotional noise to silence spiritual truth. When people you once trusted start twisting the story, stay anchored in what you know. Remember what was revealed to you in the light, even when they try to pull you back into darkness. Once truth has been exposed, it doesn't need to be reevaluated, it needs to be respected. The enemy knows that confusion leads to exhaustion, and tired people make emotional decisions. That's why when you expose deception, suddenly there's chaos, gossip, rumors, drama, or mixed messages. It's all intentional. It's designed to drain you until you say, forget it, it's not worth it. But that's exactly what they want. They want you too tired to keep standing for truth. Because if they can't defeat you through lies, they'll try to wear you down through confusion. But clarity is your weapon. Stillness is your strategy. When confusion rises, don't argue, discern. Don't react, observe. Don't defend yourself, stand in truth. Light never debates with darkness, it just shines. The moment you stop engaging with their confusion, they lose power. Because confusion only works when it's fed by your attention. Many people fall back under manipulation not because they were deceived again, but because they allowed confusion to redefine truth. Don't let that happen to you. The same discernment that exposed them must now guard you. Guard your mind from overthinking, guard your emotions from guilt, and guard your spirit from doubt. The truth doesn't change because someone refuses to accept it. Confusion is the last refuge of the deceiver. When they have no facts left, they use feelings. When they have no reason left, they use emotion. They cry, they accuse, they reverse blame, anything to make you uncertain. But remember, the louder they become, the more threatened they feel, because only the exposed react defensively. And when you stay calm in the storm of confusion, you demonstrate power they can't imitate. Peace is the proof of authority. While they scramble to twist stories, you stand firm knowing that truth always outlives lies. You don't need to convince anyone, time will testify for you. So when confusion arises after exposure, don't panic. It's not proof that you were wrong, it's confirmation that you were right. Darkness always resists being seen. Confusion is its final disguise before it flees completely. The fog might linger for a while, but it will lift. And when it does, the truth will shine brighter than ever. Don't be shaken by those who twist words or rewrite reality. Truth doesn't need defending, it only needs time. Stay rooted in what was revealed, and the same light that exposed the darkness will protect you from its return. Remember, confusion is temporary, but discernment is eternal. So hold on to your clarity like it's gold. Protect your peace like it's your greatest treasure. Because once you refuse to be confused, no witch, no manipulator, no deceiver can ever regain control over your life again. They play the victim to regain sympathy. One of the most deceptive tactics used by those who thrive in manipulation is the art of victimhood. When you expose them, they suddenly change character from the offender to the one who has been wronged. The same person who caused pain now pretends to be the one suffering from it. This is not humility, it's strategy. It's not repentance, it's reversal. They understand that if they can shift the emotional spotlight, they can regain sympathy, and once they have sympathy, they can slowly rebuild control. You see, people who operate in deception know the power of perception. They realize that truth may have exposed them, but emotion can still protect them. So instead of fighting you with facts, they fight you with feelings. They cry louder, act wounded, and craft a story where you become the villain and they become the misunderstood one. Suddenly, they're not the manipulator, they're the victim of false accusations. They start saying things like, I can't believe you think that about me. Or after all I've done for you, this is how you treat me. These are not apologies, they are emotional hooks. The spirit of manipulation knows that many hearts are soft, compassionate, and easily moved by pain. So it fakes pain to trigger compassion. This is why many people who expose deceit end up being the ones who feel guilty. Because the deceiver puts on a performance so convincing that your heart begins to question your own discernment. They know if they can make you feel sorry for them, they can silence you. Sympathy becomes their shield. But discernment must rise above emotion, because truth and compassion are not enemies, but when misplaced, compassion can become the enemy of clarity. You can love someone and still recognize their deceit. You can forgive someone and still acknowledge their manipulation. Playing the victim is how they test whether your heart is ruled by wisdom or by guilt. If you respond to guilt, they win, but if you respond from discernment, they lose their grip. When a manipulative person plays the victim, they aren't seeking reconciliation, they're seeking restoration of control. Their tears are strategic. Their sorrow is theatrical. They understand that people believe emotion more than evidence. So they stage pain to regain influence. They want to look fragile so you feel obligated to defend them. And once you begin defending them, they begin re-entering your life. It's a silent reattachment, emotional witchcraft disguised as humility. And here's the deeper truth. Not every cry is sincere. Some tears are tactics. Some apologies are rehearsed. Some wounds are manufactured for sympathy. True repentance doesn't need an audience, but manipulation always demands one. When someone is truly sorry, they accept correction. But when someone is manipulative, they perform sorrow to avoid accountability. Their pain is not for healing, it's for control. When you expose such people, expect them to gather others with their story. They will go to mutual friends, colleagues, or family members and play the same victim role in front of them. They'll twist the narrative to make it look like you turned against them unfairly. Suddenly, you find yourself isolated, misunderstood, or even accused of being judgmental. This is how they regain sympathy from the crowd, not because they are right, but because they are emotionally persuasive. People often side with whoever appears weakest, not necessarily with whoever is honest. But don't be disheartened. When truth is exposed, lies always fight back, not with strength, but with sentiment. Stay rooted in peace. Time will vindicate you. Truth is patient. It doesn't rush to defend itself. It allows falsehood to speak loudly because it knows lies have short lifespans. The person who plays the victim will eventually reveal their true nature again, because deception can only wear a mask for so long. You must learn to stand firm when guilt tries to pull you back. Don't let sympathy make you forget what revelation showed you. When you begin to feel sorry for someone who hurt you, remember they didn't change, they just changed tactics. Stay compassionate, but not blind. Be kind, but not gullible. Love them from a distance, but do not re-enter the circle of manipulation. Compassion without boundaries is the open door through which deception re-enters. Every manipulator depends on emotional confusion to regain ground. When they cry, you question your actions. When they act hurt, you second. Guess your discernment, but this is where maturity must speak louder than emotion. Remember, just because someone is in pain doesn't mean they're right. Some people are in pain because their control over you is breaking, and their suffering is not repentance, it's withdrawal. You can't rescue people from the consequences of their own deception. Let truth do its work. Real love allows accountability to finish its process. It doesn't rush to comfort those who need correction, because comfort without correction only strengthens manipulation. So when they play the victim, don't get entangled. Step back and let silence speak for you. Time and truth always walk together. Every manipulator who pretends to be wounded will eventually expose themselves again when they realize their act no longer works on you. Your calmness will confuse them. Your lack of reaction will frustrate them. Your peace will prove that their performance has lost power. And that's when freedom truly begins, when you can see through the tears, past the words, beyond the emotional theatrics, and discern the spirit behind the act. Because once you recognize manipulation disguised as vulnerability, you'll never fall for it again. Remember this truth. People can only play the victim in your story if you keep giving them the stage. Take back the stage, take back your peace, and take back your power. When you refuse to bow to emotional control, the witchcraft of sympathy loses its effect. The moment they realize their pain no longer manipulates you is the moment they truly face themselves. And that, my friend, is the ultimate exposure, not the one that happens in front of others, but the one that forces the deceiver to look in the mirror and see the emptiness of their own performance. That's when truth wins quietly, powerfully, and permanently. They attack your reputation to silence your voice when deception can no longer control you. It will try to control how others see you. The moment truth exposes darkness and you refuse to bow to manipulation, the next weapon that rises is defamation. Every manipulative spirit understands that influence is power, and if they cannot influence you, they will try to influence others about you. They can no longer pull your strings, so they start whispering lies to anyone who will listen. Their goal is simple: to make others doubt your integrity, question your motives, and ultimately silence your voice. They know that if they can't destroy your truth, they can at least damage your reputation. Because reputation is a form of credibility, and credibility gives your truth authority. They can't handle your influence, so they attempt to stain it. They begin to craft narratives that make you look like the villain in a story where you were the one standing for what's right. Suddenly, your kindness becomes manipulation, your boundaries become arrogance, and your discernment becomes judgment. They twist the truth until people can no longer recognize who you really are. This is how the spirit of witchcraft operates. It doesn't just curse you in private, it assassinates you in public. The tongue becomes the weapon. They spread half-truths, insinuations, and subtle remarks designed to make people suspicious. They don't need to prove anything. All they need to do is plant a seed of doubt. Once that seed grows, others begin to see you through the lens of suspicion. And that's how they attempt to silence your influence without ever confronting your strength. You must understand that this is not personal, it's spiritual. When you stand for truth, you automatically threaten lies. When you live with integrity, you expose deceit by your very presence. The righteous don't have to shout to convict. Their light alone exposes hidden motives. And because that light is uncomfortable to those living in darkness, they must create a story to justify their discomfort. Their attack on your reputation is not about who you are, it's about what you represent. You represent exposure, and exposure terrifies them. The danger of reputation attacks is that they often come from people who once praised you. The same mouths that called you friend will suddenly speak poison in your absence. It hurts deeply because betrayal always comes from proximity. Strangers can't betray you, only those who are close enough to know your heart can twist it. But here is the truth. What they say behind your back cannot cancel what God has placed within you. Words can't bury purpose. Lies can't silence destiny. When your reputation is attacked, don't rush to defend yourself. That's exactly what they want, your reaction. They want you to fight on their level, to waste your energy explaining yourself to those who have already chosen what to believe. But wisdom knows that truth needs no defense, it simply outlasts the lie. The storm may be loud, but storms never last forever. Silence will be your proof. Time will be your vindication. There is divine power in restraint. When you stay silent in the face of slander, you allow heaven to fight for you. Those who rise against you with lies will eventually be exposed by their own inconsistency. Deception always trips over its own narrative. They will contradict themselves, reveal too much, and eventually their web of deceit will collapse. Your job is not to fight back, but to remain steady, calm, grounded, and clear in your purpose. Because people may not believe you now, but they will watch your consistency. And consistency always proves what chaos tries to deny. Every attack on your reputation is actually a compliment in disguise. It means you're too powerful to be ignored. It means your light is reaching places their lies can't control. When they can't match your grace, they try to taint your name. When they can't match your authority, they try to question your motives. But the truth is, you don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need to remain faithful to what you were called to do. The voice of truth will eventually silence the noise of gossip. Don't ever forget, people who gossip about you reveal more about themselves than they do about you. Slander is the language of the insecure. They attack what they secretly admire. They despise what they can't control. Every rumor spoken against you is simply evidence that your influence has become undeniable. Because if you were insignificant, they wouldn't waste energy discussing you. You must learn to guard your heart when your reputation is under fire. Don't let bitterness take root. Don't let anger poison your peace. Understand that your silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. The truth doesn't need you to chase lies, it needs you to live above them. Keep walking in integrity, keep producing fruit, keep doing what you were called to do. Over time, fruit will silence falsehood. Your results will testify louder than their rumors. When witches, manipulators, or deceivers attack your name, they do it hoping to isolate you. They know that isolation weakens influence, but what they don't know is that divine isolation is protection. God separates you from noise, so he can elevate you without distraction. Don't mourn the people who left because of lies. They were never meant to walk with your truth. Let them go. Let your silence preach what your mouth doesn't need to explain. And when you see your name being dragged, remember, you are not what they call you. You are what you continue to become. A lie may travel fast, but truth never gets tired. It keeps walking until it reaches every ear that needs to hear it. Those who once doubted you will one day apologize. Those who once questioned your integrity will one day see your purity. That's how God vindicates his own, not through arguments, but through elevation. So stand tall when your reputation is under fire. Don't hide your face. Don't shrink your light. Continue walking in truth, even when truth costs you relationships. Because the moment you refuse to be silenced by slander, the moment you rise above accusation, you prove that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Their lies may echo for a while, but your integrity will echo for eternity. They fear those who walk in light. Nothing terrifies darkness more than light. When witches, manipulators, or deceivers encounter someone who walks in light, someone grounded in truth, discernment, and spiritual awareness, they tremble. Not because you're aggressive, but because your clarity exposes what they can no longer hide. Light carries authority. It reveals motives, unmasks deception, and brings hidden things into the open. Those who dwell in darkness depend on confusion to survive, but when light enters the room, their power collapses. That's why people who once tried to control you suddenly avoid you once you awaken. It's not that you've changed, it's that they can no longer operate around someone who sees through them. To walk in light is to walk in truth, and truth is the greatest weapon against manipulation. Witches don't fear your shouting, they fear your seeing. They fear your peace, your wisdom, your ability to discern without reacting, because discernment breaks their rhythm, it dismantles their influence. The moment you walk in awareness, you become spiritually unapproachable. They can't confuse you anymore, they can't emotionally trap you anymore, and they can't lure you into drama anymore. Light gives you power to stay above the storm that used to consume you. Those who live in deception operate in shadows. They depend on hidden motives, secret conversations, and unspoken agreements. But light makes secrets uncomfortable. When you start speaking truth, asking the right questions, and setting clear boundaries, they feel exposed even when you haven't mentioned their names. Your presence becomes convicting. It's not that you're judging them, it's that your authenticity confronts their pretension. Light doesn't need to accuse, it simply shines and everything false becomes visible. That's why those who operate in darkness try to distance themselves from you when you grow in discernment. They might start calling you too intense, too spiritual, or too serious. They'll label your awareness as arrogance, your clarity as coldness, and your peace as pride because they can't stand in the same atmosphere as truth. But don't take their departure personally. Take it as confirmation. Their discomfort is evidence that your light has become too bright for their shadowed motives to survive. Walking in light doesn't mean you expose everyone publicly. It means you carry revelation privately. You discern without gossiping. You see without reacting. You understand without needing revenge. That's true power, controlled discernment. When you know who's operating in manipulation, but you choose peace over confrontation, you display authority that darkness can't imitate. Because witches and deceivers feed on reaction. When you no longer respond emotionally, their influence starves. Silence becomes your weapon. Calmness becomes your shield. To walk in light means you are guided by truth, not emotion. It means you no longer fall for flattery, pity, or confusion. You've matured beyond manipulation. You've learned that every smile is not sincere, and every apology is not repentance. You can love people deeply but still see clearly. You can forgive completely but still protect your peace. That balance, love with discernment, grace with boundaries, is what terrifies manipulators most, because it means they can no longer use your kindness as weakness. Darkness fears exposure, but it also fears consistency. Because when you consistently walk in integrity, lies can't compete with your stability. The manipulator changes masks daily, but the person of light remains steady. Truth doesn't need to reinvent itself. It just keeps shining. That's why those who walk in deceit always feel uneasy around those who walk in authenticity. Your stability reveals their instability. Your peace reveals their chaos. Your honesty reveals their agenda, and rather than change, they retreat. There's something supernatural about walking in light. It carries a presence. When you walk into a room, the atmosphere shifts. People who operate in purity recognize your spirit, and those who operate in darkness feel exposed. You don't have to say a word, your energy speaks. That's what true spiritual authority looks like, not noise, not arrogance, but quiet confidence rooted in truth. The presence of genuine light makes counterfeit spirits nervous, but with this power comes responsibility. To walk in light means you must guard it. You must protect your heart from pride, bitterness, and retaliation. Because once darkness can't destroy you, it will try to corrupt you. The goal shifts from defeating you to distracting you. So stay humble, stay prayerful. Don't let the behavior of the deceived make you lose your own grace. The greatest victory over darkness is not exposure, it's transformation. When you remain pure in a corrupt environment, you've already won. Light doesn't fight darkness, it simply shines. And in doing so, it exposes everything around it. You don't need to prove yourself, argue with critics, or justify your discernment. Keep walking in truth, and the fruit of your life will speak louder than their words. People may doubt you for a season, but time always sides with light. Lies run fast, but truth endures, and when the fog lifts, everyone will see who was genuine all along. When witches fear your light, they might try to dim it through distraction, making you overthink, feel isolated, or question your calling. But remember, light doesn't need validation to shine. Even if no one sees you, the world still feels your warmth. Keep shining where you are. Your light is your legacy. Every time you choose peace over revenge, forgiveness over resentment, and clarity over confusion, your light intensifies. There's no darkness deep enough to overcome a soul that's anchored in truth. And there's no witchcraft powerful enough to silence a heart that walks in divine light. So keep walking. Let your discernment grow. Let your peace speak. Let your integrity preach louder than your pain. Because at the end of every battle between light and darkness, the outcome is always the same: the light wins. And that's what they fear most. Not your words, not your authority, not even your exposure, but your endurance. Because the one who walks in light cannot be destroyed. They can only be revealed.